Welcome back to CFO Weekly, where we're talking with financial leaders about how to build efficiency in their teams, create time for strategy, and ultimately get results. With your host, Megan Weiss. Let's jump right in.
Today, my guest is Jenny Foos. Jenny thrives in a changing business environment on the cusp of big change, achieving objectives quickly in different business situations and cultures with unique business models, projects, services, and product manufacturing in various industries, including oil and gas, energy, renewable, building automation, fire protection solutions and service business, plus cutting-edge automotive and e-mobility markets. Jenny adds creative solutions to complex business challenges for global organizations across diverse industries in operational management, sales, procurement, engineering, project management, manufacturing, and commercial contract negotiation in changing and turnaround business environments, optimizing financial operations with strategic digital transformation and strong teams. Jenny is a self-starter with the power to lift a leadership team to the what if. Jenny, thank you very much for joining me on today's episode of CFO Weekly.
Hi, Megan. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be part of the CFO Weekly podcast because I'm a big fan of it. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, that's great to hear. Today, we're going to be discussing the CFO Trifecta, finance, strategy, and leadership, and how a modern CFO should be thinking about these three skill sets and how they fit together. And I'm looking forward to learning from you. So let's jump right in.
Awesome.
First, and as always, let's start with you. So you started your career in Germany as an apprentice at Siemens and have gone on to work in executive level finance roles in multiple industries across the globe. So can you tell us more about your career path and the key experiences that have shaped your approach to finance leadership?
Yes. And maybe for those who are not familiar in the US, what an apprenticeship means, let me maybe add 2 sentences to that.
Sure.
So in my case, that have been a 2.5-year intensive program, and it involves a unique combination of classroom learning and rotational assignments within the business. And sometimes you see that also here in the US in a similar way, at least towards the rotational assignment in so-called finance leadership development programs where early starters into the business world being assigned to a specific department and working there as a financial analyst, and by that learning about the various departments. And so that's how you can envision an apprenticeship, just add a bit of classroom, and at the end you have to pass an exam. And for me, those 2.5 years were really formative because what I later kind of like valued was that I was exposed to learning a complete end-to-end processes. So I was in the after sales, was in accounting and payroll, in project teams. So just having this exposure was so valuable for me because it enabled me to connect dots. And I think that is so unique for working in finance because if you are in the engineering trade, you don't get that broad opportunity to really jump throughout the different stages of an end-to-end process. And so it was really great experience for me learning about how during a negotiation phase, the terms and conditions are very important and crucial to also enable the team or your co-workers to easily and almost effortless also collect the invoices. And just by being able to see that really playing out in the real world was, I think, really important and essential and instrumental for me in that part. And then secondly, I approached my early years always with the curiosity. Like when I joined the department, I asked a lot of questions, what are their challenges, what they are working on. And that helped me also then make those connections. Why is that important to have the also relationship to the accountants, but also to the project manager, to engineering, to procurement, because at the end, everything needs to flow through the organization and you can have an influence on how efficient that is. So with that, I think that really laid out the groundwork to my leadership approach and seeing the connectiveness, being able to see the value in finance business partnering, learning about how important it is to address proactive risk management, seeing the value in the collaboration with other functions, and developing a mindset of problem solving. And I think all of those things I learned in my early days were always guiding stars throughout my career to the executive finance roles I took on later, and definitely had a big influence to my leadership style and also on how I'm contributing to decision making.
That apprenticeship at Siemens sounds like it was an amazing opportunity. I wish we had more programs like that here in the United States. I feel like as an accountant, you don't often get an opportunity to see other parts of the business.
Yeah. So FLDP, what I have seen in the United States, I think is a great investment for companies to really groom excellent finance and accounting professionals for the future.
Yeah. So what qualities do you think are necessary for a successful CFO today?
So I would piggyback on my 20 plus year experience in worked in various industries and different regions. And if I look back, I would say there are a few key qualities that are essential for being successful and maybe even being successful as a CFO. And we talked about that I started as an apprentice, and that helped me to create that foundation in terms of finance and accounting and how processes look like from an end-to-end perspective, and definitely positioned me well to transition into leadership roles. And then I also learned that it's very important to have a strategic vision that actually aligns the finances and the business goals. And then adding to that, the leadership skills, right? I think as a CFO, you have to lead teams through very complex and financial challenges. You need to foster collaboration, and you want to make sure that we are achieving the result or that one shared goal. And additional, I think what's very helpful to be successful is also having a global perspective. And for global, I would say, yes, you should be aware of what is going on in the world, but I sometimes like the 360-degree perspective as a description a little bit better, because it's not just understanding maybe different cultures and that there are different laws and other jurisdictions. It's also about working together with other functions and trying at least to get a good 360-degree view on the challenge or the opportunity you're working on. And having that ability to see and thrive for 360-degree, I think, is a very important quality people in my position can bring to the table, as well as being also effective in risk management, having a very transparent communication style, and then the own willingness to be open for new ways of doing innovation. I mean, those three things I would also describe as very crucial traits for a successful CFO. And I think these qualities also have me enabled to make informed decisions, driving for financial stability, and then most important, also contribute to the success of an organization I've been part of or I am part of today.
So when you think of those three traits, finance, strategy, and leadership, is there one of those that's more important than others, or are they all three equally important?
I think it is a question of the balance and the mix of those. You can have a good finance and strategy, being clear and working fine. But if you're missing out on the right leadership style or approach, that can really turn down maybe what you're trying to accomplish. I think I had that experience as well in my past, right? When you work together as a finance business partner, and that's how we call it in Siemens. And I like that term actually, right? You are the finance business partner. And we were working through a financial challenge, and most of the time it goes about or is around being more profitable, but not just deploying the typical cost-cutting measures. And you start with, looking at the financial data, pre-identifying where maybe improvement areas are. You work together with your technical business partner, could be a segment CEO or the CEO or other key stakeholders to the process, and review the strategy and align the strategy to your own KPIs and so on. And I think the real breakthrough in my experience, was actually when you then also address the leadership aspect. And we did that by first really leading by example and fostering a culture of collaboration. And when your teams are seeing how their leadership is acting with each other and they are willing to step out of their own, call it silo or comfort zone, and also making it as a platform that people can participate in strategic discussions and that you're actually wanting, or you want their input, their ideas, that they contribute to the solution and the direction. And usually that's happening by really forming intentionally cross-functional teams. I think just by addressing that, that's where you need to find the balance. But if one element is missing, I don't think it will be successful.
And speaking of collaboration and cross-functional teams, what benefits do you think that CFOs can achieve when they're willing to step outside of their traditional finance and accounting silo?
Yeah, that's a wonderful, great question. And I could talk forever about this. And let me start with to say, once upon a time in my corporate world experience as a segment CFO in Asia Pacific, I actually decided to venture beyond my spreadsheet, my financial statements, my deadlines for reporting, and actually joined a team brainstorming session for entering a new country in Asia Pacific. And I joined the discussion and I realized that with my experience and with my more financial focused lens, I was able to add unique perspective to really identifying how we can enter successfully a new country in Asia Pacific. So I showcased that I was actively participating. We asked questions each other. We shared different experience. We were able to talk about like, oh, if we do that, that would mean that it costs us maybe X, Y, that. Or we should very much clarify at the very beginning, do we actually have a business license? How long does that take? Because the team I was joining them were from various backgrounds, like engineers, project manager, procurement, and not all of them had yet had the experience of entering a new country. I think that was, they could see that I was contributing, I was questioning them, but with the clear goal of how we can make this new country entry successful. And I think they were a little bit surprised by like somebody joining and not just very much talking like very finance or accounting language, but more broadly operational and business. And I would say that that surprise was not just didn't stop there. It was also for everyone an experience of how good collaboration can actually work. It also built a much stronger relationship between me and the colleagues from those different functions. And I think it was even sort of like fun to go through that problem solving and thinking it through and exchanging experiences towards a shared goal. That hindsight, I would say the most unexpected benefit was that impact, what it really had to the employee morale. Because by engaging with those different teams, I was able to break down this finance is an enemy stereotype. Because people were now experiencing me as a partner, not as a gatekeeper. And I think that also helped them to better understand what is their financial responsibility in that whole ecosystem. So I think with my little twisted story here, it is when CFOs or other finance executives are stepping out their traditional silo, they actually can discover the treasure from working together, making informed decisions, and really also through collaboration, enhancing the employee morale. And I think that's a good positive impact because there's a saying like happy employees will also be more motivated and have also more fun at work if there is a good collaboration and a good team spirit. So there's additional influence we as finance leaders can have to that element as well.
Yeah, thank you. That was a great story. I appreciate you telling that and some really good examples of the benefits that can be achieved when we're willing to, like I said, step out of our comfort zones. So during your career, what challenges have you faced while trying to balance finance strategy and leadership? And how were you able to overcome them?
Yeah. So one situation comes to my mind where I have been in a segment where we were basically, from a liquidity standpoint, underfunded. We discovered we had a lot of unfavorable payment terms. And because of that, we were also not able to leverage certain business opportunities in the region or in that segment. And what it meant basically was we really needed to overhaul our strategy. And I think in the first place, what you will experience, and I experienced in that case, was the resistance, right? Of having everyone in the team and the leadership team understanding like, yes, we need to do changes to ensure going forward that we have the financial stability and achieving our overarching strategic goals. And for me, the key takeaway out of that situation and learning was that it was also about leading with the empathy, embracing change, and then really fostering the collaboration. And one other element is when I go in those conversations, which I learned from those situations, is really focus at the beginning on the active listening part to what are the other contributing partners, stakeholders, functions that are actually telling you about the concern or why things are how they are, why our strategy is not working, or why our financials are not where we want them to be. And that has the impact that they feel also involved and engaged in that decision making towards maybe a new strategy or a new alignment on how we lead, and enables then also team to have a clear communication about the vision going forward. And once I think a vision is clear and people can articulate that in their own language, with that, we were able then to overcome certain resistance and got the buy-in from the team towards a new strategy to enable us to be financially more successful. And I think also what I discovered as part of that, and maybe that's one overcome, is we start approaching things like as a challenge, right? But trying to formulate that as an opportunity helps people to maybe also open up to think differently about that. What if, right, is always a good question. And helps just everyone to think out loud and brainstorm. And then usually when you have the right team together, then you will find the right balance in terms of finance and strategy and leadership. And what I also took away from that lesson is that for everyone who wants to become a CFO or is aiming for an impactful leadership role, remember in those moments when it's challenging to work between the balance of finance, strategy, and leadership, and you overcome those challenges, aka create those opportunities, that's also where people will find their greatest growth and also have the biggest influence. And for me, that's very fascinating. And that's why I'm a person who leans into that challenge to turn it into a team opportunity.
And how can CFOs transition from pure finance leaders to people, operations, and strategy leaders?
My short answer to that is meet the operations where they are. And I learned that very early in my career in being a financial analyst in a manufacturing environment, sitting in front of a spreadsheet and feeling like I'm not able to make sense out of those numbers, and then actively going to the workshop manager and saying like, just have me walk for a week with you. Help me to understand this world better. And I think that is the first step to create the relationship, but also to better understand the operations. And I always keep saying, like, meet them where they are, try to walk in their shoes, and then be the translator in terms of the number side and help them guiding through towards the better or improved strategy to more operational success.
And how have you optimized financial operations to drive strategic initiatives?
Yeah. So there's one example that comes to my mind when we talk about financial operations. What is that? That is around maybe collection, right? Or it is around helping inventory management. And I think it's also to make clear at the beginning, why are you doing that, optimizing your working capital? At the end, it should help to get you additional or necessary funds for other strategic initiatives you may have in a business. And so that requires that, for example, we had a situation where I was like, okay, I need additional funds. And so me and my team on the finance side, we looked into the working capital, and we figured that we have a lot of cash trapped in inventory. And actually, by talking with the operational people in the warehouse department, that certain processes were very inefficient, and additional on the account receivable side, that it took us a long, long time to actually collect the cash. And we went through a process mapping and identified why is that. And that helped us then to also optimize those processes. And not always is that purely on what you're responsible from a finance perspective, from your accounting, but it also needs that maybe things in the upstream process are being corrected and optimized. And again, I think there it comes again together, right? This collaboration with the different functions. And so I think the next points is probably just like, we implemented the lean inventory management. We reduced excess stock and improved our turn rates, and also revamped our accounts receivable process by streamlining collections and really focused on the outstanding payments, made it like a big campaign, and also provided clarity on why that is important and how people, individuals can contribute to that. Because also with outstanding payments, depending on in which industry and which business you are, you may have to work very closely with the operations, which could be sales or your project management, to really get the payments into the door. And in my experience, that we were very successful with that. So we did not only secure the additional funding we needed, and by the way, I would almost say we really improved our financial health, that it also helped and demonstrated for the entire organization how optimizing financial operations can really drive also strategic initiatives. And I think for everyone back then involved was when we realized that actually what we all needed to drive more strategic initiatives was actually right in front of us, but it was hidden in inefficient financial processes, which was some degree also related to hidden inefficient operational processes. At the end, I think it taught me not only to look to the balance sheet, but also to the all operational levers, which can help to bring an organization forward.
And how do you think the rapid evolution of technology and cybersecurity is impacting businesses? And how can CFOs ensure that the finance function is agile and adaptable to the impact of all of these rapid changes?
Yeah, I have a big smile on my face because I just had this morning a conversation about that. So I have currently a dual role. So I'm the CFO, but I also oversee IT, and we were thinking and reviewing, or we did an assessment on where we spend our budget in the IT world, and discovering how much we spend on cybersecurity and where we have to get better. Because as a CFO, I also have an interest that my organization in FP&A, accounting, and in tax is leveraging new AI technology. But then there is this potential risk, and that when you use an open platform where you upload maybe certain data points, they can be misused, and they are out there in the World Wide Web. And you don't want to block that. So it's a balancing act. And I would say I'm with my team still finding out what will work best for us, because I think so far we have been very focused on the detection of potential cyber attacks. And we all also know that it's not a question if, right? It's more a question of when. That the detection is at the end just one part of the equation. And we discussed a lot today how we can create a more intense culture of the awareness, which we identified that we need to do and provide more training for finance teams, but probably also for people working in procurement and in other departments, that how to have everyone to recognize signs of a cyber attack, of has there been any suspicious financial transactions, to I think what everyone gets regular email from the IT department is the phishing attempts. But even they're surprised that we are getting that for many, many years, and still a few people will open those links, which they shouldn't, right? Yeah. So there's still work to do to create that awareness. And I think in my role, I would say I'm signing up also to be lead by example. And by just talking about that there's a conflict in a way, or let's find a way to balance that. I don't want to say to my people, oh, don't use that AI platform, right? Because I think I want them to really think about how to improve our process and be more effective and more efficient. And they cannot reach that if I basically take the toy away from them. But we need to create that culture of where there needs to be more sensitivity. And we realized in our today's discussion that it's not only about the technology, that we really have to work on creating a cybersecurity mindset. And I think in my role, of course, I can say we are very closely working together with the IT department and having regular communication and aligning also like financial systems protection with the broader cybersecurity strategy and making that actually part of our standard conversation. Like I work in the mining service industry and we always talk about safety. And so we just recently started like, well, when we have a team meeting, let's talk about cybersecurity. So by regularly talking about that, it will help to create that awareness and exchange what happened maybe in other industries or in our industry, what happened with our maybe customers or a supplier who was impacted. And maybe as much as we can learn about that, how we then think about our own protection, detection, and questioning ourselves if we have the right level of the awareness built around that.
And what advice would you give to CFOs who are just starting out in their career as a CFO?
Yeah, I think there are maybe 3-4 things coming to my mind. And I really kind of like point back to what I thought was important for my career path, and that's the curiosity. So always stay curious about what is changing in the financial landscape, but also what's changing in the world, in our economics. And I think a good way of approaching that is also always seek for learning opportunities and embracing, new challenges. That would be one advice. The second is the adaptability, being flexible and open-minded towards change is crucial, because also the role of a CFO is evolving, right? I think in my 20 plus years, I would say, what was maybe in the past more the chief number cruncher is now becoming more the chief storyteller, and being also in that part adaptable and knowing when you need to switch maybe gears, which brings me to the third element, which is the effective communication. I think CFOs need really to hone their communication skills, because we have a responsibility to translate the complexity of financial data into understandable insights for diverse audience. So that can be, basically it's from the boardroom to the break room. And having that skill set will be really crucial to develop and step in when starting as a CFO and prior. And then the last point I would say, what is also important, and I got that advice many, 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 many years ago, is to build your own board. And what is meant by that, develop a network of mentors and advisors. Like, I have an executive coach. Hi, Alexandra. I have a communication coach, Brendan. I'm pretty sure he will listen to the podcast as well. And I have a fitness coach, and I have a CFO, who is my sounding board. And so I also have a sounding board if I have a more operational or CEO related question. So that is my personal board. And that helps me to get closer also to a 360-degree perspective to navigate through my CFO journey.
That is some great advice. Thank you for sharing. So last question, what keeps you up at night these days as you look into the future? What concerns or worries do you have?
Yeah, it goes back to what we talked earlier. How can I be a good coach and emphasize and encourage people to go out and play with the new toys, right? With AI and the emergent technology, but while safeguarding us, our financial systems, and protecting us as much and as best possible against cyber attacks, because there will be, of significant financial impact if we are getting attacked or exposed to that. And that is keeping me up at night, because I don't want to become that CFO parent who just says, no, don't do that, right? What is the right level of risk versus making sure that people stay engaged on the continuous learning journey?
Jenny, thank you so much for being my guest today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed your questions, and I hope I could add my perspective to those topics I think we all think about as CFOs.
Yeah, I know that I really enjoyed speaking with you today, and thanks for finding the time to be here with us to share all of your experience and knowledge. I thought this was a very interesting conversation.
Thank you, Megan.
To all of our listeners, please tune in next week, and until then, take care.
If you're ready to boost efficiency and streamline your accounting processes at significant cost savings, it's time to talk with Personiv. Their people-powered solutions have transformed the delivery of back-office tasks and general accounting functions for decades, partnering with clients to provide everything from accounts payable to payroll services. See what Personiv can do for you by visiting personiv.com.
You've been listening to CFO Weekly, presented by Personiv. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts to hear all of our episodes. Want to learn more? Check out personiv.com. Thanks for listening.